Perfect. So it is now 7 o'clock, so we'll open the meeting by roll call vote.
Daryl Beardsley present.
Matt Beavers present.
Lisa present.
Matt Vitale present. Well, now that we've officially started, we'll just congratulate Ms. Camp on 6 years on the board. This will be her last meeting, so we are all grateful for your service, and this way it'll be officially commemorated in the minutes of March 29th.
Oh, thank you. Appreciated.
And thank you too.
Do I have a motion to add 65 Farm Road as item not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting?
Well, possibly. The other thing I want to know is, should we be adding planning for when we want to hold the public hearing on the regulatory updates?
Let's, can we include that in the 5.3 agenda items?
In the, well, it's just that setting that up takes like a lead of a month. So that pushes things into June. I was kind of hoping we would be doing it maybe in April or the beginning of May.
Sounds lovely. So let's add that.
Okay. What is the Farm Road? Is that agency?
I would say it's chair's business and will be brief.
Okay. So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. So just a brief update. So 65 Farm Road, I think, will literally be 2 minutes. We got notification yesterday from Concom, or I guess we got notification today from Concom of materials they received yesterday as it relates to 65 Farm Road and soil testing in the context of stormwater runoff planning. And so I think it was just saying that the plan as laid out was outside of the buffer zone so they could do the testing. This is not for a permit before the Board of Health. And so I think this is just to acknowledge receipt of those materials, but not for more substantive discussion than that, because there's nothing before the Board of Health.
Okay.
And so that, I think that's that. And Ellen, I don't, yep. So that is in the Google Drive for folks who have questions or want to review it, but I don't think we'll have a more in-depth discussion just because we're not the permit granting body and we don't have an application before us. Daryl, I feel like we should do the public hearing timing later on. Does that sound right?
Yes, because I think that'll be a lengthier discussion.
Okay, perfect. Do we want to, I think we've got 5 minutes before our first appointment tonight. Do we want to do the temporary one-day food establishment permit approvals? Does that sound okay to folks?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. So we've got Jackson Effie Coffee Cabin of Princeton, Massachusetts for April 8th and for May 13th. Ellen, did Tom have any comments on this?
No, he worked with the owners of all of these up till now. He has told me to put them on for approval.
Perfect. So do I have a motion to approve the 2 permits for Jackson Effie Coffee Cabin?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Do you want to do the other 2 first?
Oh, okay, perfect. Perfect. So do we want to, do we have a motion to approve the temporary one-day mobile food permit for Jackson Effie Coffee Cabin for April 8th, Jackson Effie Coffee Cabin for May 13th, Big T's Jerky House of Worcester for May 13th, and Trolley Dogs of Framingham for May 13th?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
I thought I saw Rebecca on there.
Yeah, she was on.
Yeah, she's
Rebecca,
here.
can you hear us?
All right, Matt Vitale, aye. And Rebecca, when you get your audio, if you could just feel free to interrupt to just let us know that you're hearable. Why don't we do the disposal works installer permit renewal for Rebco Inc.? Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Mark and Ellen, any concerns?
I have already spoken to the installer. I'll be working with him for my first time. He seems very knowledgeable as well as workable. And he's going to be doing the new septic system for the new house at 156 Nason Hill Road. So we'll probably do the pre-construction tomorrow, but I have no problem with his references or my initial discussions with him.
Perfect. Do I have a motion for the installer permit renewal subject to a pre-construction meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Matt Vitale, aye. Minutes for approval. I did not have any substantive edits. Ellen, I think you identified a couple minor typos. Any other comments for folks, or are we comfortable approving the March 15th minutes?
Yep, I just had teeny weeny comments.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the March 15th minutes?
So moved.
Oh, seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
All right, I still don't hear Rebecca. Matt Vitale, aye. Ellen, do you want to comment briefly on the MHB annual certificate program?
Sure. We got notification that there will be 3 sessions, April 15th in Taunton, May 6th in Marlborough. Those will go from 8:30 to 4, and breakfast, lunch, and snacks are included. And then the 3rd session is June 3rd in Holyoke, and that one it'll go from 8:30 till 2. And I do have a link if any board member wants to sign up. I can send it to you, and it will be, the registration cost will be paid by the shared services grant. So there'd be no cost to the town or to any board member.
So I'll go. I just want to figure out schedule-wise which one works out the best.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent.
Thanks,
So
Rebecca.
I also sorry that that happened again, but I also am interested in going, and I also need to check my schedule to see whether which date is better. What is the deadline of when you need to know for sure to register me?
That I don't know, but what I can do is, since the registration is through the shared services grant, I will just forward you the link, and then you can go on and register yourself, and they will pay for it.
Okay, that sounds fine. Thank you.
Perfect. And so I think now we've got a 7:10 appointment, and I think Mr. Berkowitz is not going to be able to join us this evening. So maybe Mark, can you just review the current status of the septic system replacement for 13 Corsebrook?
Yes. I received an email from Mr. Berkowitz on March 16th of this year, indicating that he is looking at an April of this year groundbreaking. I presume he meant this year. If he didn't, I'm surprised. And I spoke to the installer, Colin Mayo, and he agreed that that groundbreaking would be this coming month. So, and Colin assured that in a March 19th email. So I expect the work will be starting very soon because April's just around the corner.
Perfect. Any other concerns or anything that you need guidance from the board on, Mark?
I don't think so. He was ordered to correct, and he is complying. the winter months would have been difficult to install. So I think this is reasonable, but if we don't see any action in the month of April, which I hope will not occur, then I'll bring it back to the board for your first meeting in May.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Mark, is it okay if I impose on you in terms of agent's business? I feel like we have some items that may be fairly quick to resolve and some that may require more discussion.
Yes, in fact, 2 of the engineers for the septic systems I'm going to recommend approval for are here. We have Bill Buckley here representing 21 Morse Road, and we have Dan McIntyre representing 267 South Main. They both will have deed recordings, but if you could bring them up, those will not take too long.
Perfect. And I see Ed Kopelman, who I think is 21 Morse Road. So why don't we start with that one?
Okay, sounds good. And we have his engineer here as well. His engineer is Bill Buckley, and I invited him to the meeting in case there were any questions. This is a barn. This is a septic system for a barn that exists in the backyard. You'll see that light shaded building towards the back of the plan. And they're putting a septic system in not too far from the existing system. Their preference was to put in a separate septic system than to add on to the existing septic system. The soils were very similar to the soils that were found in the testing that was done for the original house. And the groundwater was similar too. And Bill and I reviewed that through the process. Also, the barn is going to be restricted to 2 bedrooms. So the state of Massachusetts does allow that, but they will be required to put a deed restriction on that building that it can only be for 2 bedrooms. And they're designing to not incorporate a garbage grinder. Ellen has put together a sample deed recording that will need to be recorded. So I recommend approval of the plan as presented.
Perfect. Any comment from either the property owner or the engineer, or any questions from the board?
No, not for me.
Perfect.
All right, I do have a question on the deed recording. I find item 2 a little confusing. Is the existing house, not the barn, but the main house, is that a 2-bedroom house?
No, that house is a 4-bedroom.
Okay, then I think the wording might have to change to make it clear.
Okay.
That because they're going to modify the barn to become a 2-bedroom.
Yes. That is correct. Right
so
now,
it's not an existing house just yet.
Oh, there's an existing house there, Daryl. What in the barn?
And that's 4 bedrooms. And somehow I feel like there needs to be a little bit different language to distinguish.
So
the house to which the septic is connected to.
It says at the top of the deed recording, this is for the 24 Morse accessory unit. Is that sufficient?
Oh, at the very top?
Yeah. We can share that deed recording if there's no questions on the septic plan.
Yeah, do you want to just put the deed
That would
recording?
be helpful. Could you?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought I did, but now I will.
Okay.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to see it somehow just refer to that the septic system serving this accessory unit has been designed to accommodate the 2-bedroom house. It shall be limited to no more than 2 bedrooms.
What if we replace existing house to accessory unit?
Oh, wait,
number 2.
Just so you know. So there is a restriction on what you can build for an auxiliary apartment.
Yep.
That I actually got a permit for. So this may well be redundant. I can only put 1,250 square feet for a 2-bedroom auxiliary.
We're just trying to make sure that no one in the future interprets that your existing house is limited to 2 bedrooms.
Right. Yeah. Like I think this is about clarifying for this septic system that it is serving this unit, not really getting into the building permit issues. So
right, because otherwise, the way I read this is that your main house now was being limited to 2 bedrooms, and I don't think that's what you want.
Correct.
So.
I can just change the existing house in number 2 to the
accessory unit.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I think that makes sense.
And so I'll make that change and I'll send the deed recording to Mr. Coffey.
Okay.
Thank you, Ellen.
And either Mr. Buckley or Mr. Koppelman, any concerns with just changing those two words?
I have a bill for that.
I also would change this site because it's not the whole site. It's not the whole property.
I mean, I think this is why it specifies the accessory unit at the top of the deed recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So site is zeroing in within the property. If that's the interpretation, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
And I do recommend approval of the plan with the garbage grinder deed recording and the deed recording you're seeing right here, which also includes the garbage grinder and the bedroom count.
Perfect.
As noted, to be modified as noted.
Do I have a motion to approve the plans as presented, conditional to those two deed recordings?
Actually, one deed recording with both included.
Perfect. One deed recording with two elements.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Perfect.
And I should have noted it meets all new construction requirements. So just so the board knows.
Perfect. All right, sounds good. Mark, do you need anything else from us?
I would like to, not on this plan, but if you have a minute or two, if we do, oh no, I don't know. Yes, you may. I have Dan McIntyre in the audience, hoping to hear about 267 South Main Street.
Perfect. I can pull that up. Dan, is there anything in particular that's best to have on the screen out of the gate?
No, I don't think so. It's pretty straightforward design. So just the septic plan.
Yeah, and this one is for new construction as well and meets all new construction requirements.
Am I done?
So
yeah,
you draw that up.
Yep, you're all set, Mr. Koppelman. You're approved.
Oh, sorry. As you draw this one up, Matt, this one meets all new construction and is limited to 6 bedrooms based on the acreage because it's in a nitrogen sensitive zone. I think it's 1.65 acres. They are designing for a 6-bedroom. They were in front of the board to review their barn. They want to put like some accessory, an office in the barn and so forth. The board visited this, I think, a month ago. And Dan has designed the septic plan and the soil absorption system and the septic components to be the correct distance from the wetlands. That was the issue at the beginning. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. And yes. So now it meets all new construction requirements for a 6-bedroom unit. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was it. It was just that 125-foot offset to the wetlands. Yeah. But we worked with the homeowner to shift the driveway. We shifted the system, and I think everybody's happy.
And you can see the driveway shift in there. He kind of highlighted it to the board.
Perfect.
So I would recommend approval of this plan, conditional to a deed recording for the garbage grinder since it's not being designed for this septic system.
All right, perfect. Any questions from the board?
No.
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the plan subject to the garbage grinder deed recording?
So moved.
Seconded.
Oops.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Dan, have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Let me close this one out. And then what about 3 and 7 Nason Hill?
Those are renewals. The board saw these 2 years ago, and they're right at the deadline. So I'd recommend approval of these 2 plans. There's no changes to them. It just they both needed to be renewed.
Okay. Do I have a motion to renew the septic plan for 3 Nason Hill Lane?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt
Sorry,
Vitale.
Lisa, I'll let you second since you'll never get to do it again.
Perfect. Matt Vitale, aye.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
Well, she can get a crack at with 7 Nason Hill. Do I have a motion to renew the septic plan for 7 Nason Hill?
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. And so, Mark, I think we've got 60 Brush Hill and 263. I see Eric and Terry Luskin, which I think are 263, and I don't see anybody for Brush Hill. Am I missing anybody?
I don't know if their attorney is in the audience. He was invited, as well as Kerry Rose was invited, the homeowner. But I don't know if they're here. I can't tell.
Perfect.
But I do see the Luskins.
So why don't we do 263 Western next? Does that work okay for you, Mark?
Yes, it does.
All right, perfect. So Mark, do you want to introduce background
Sure.
in terms of kind of where we're at?
The Luskins bought this house probably a few years ago, because we did see previous minutes on this house from a previous board meeting. And so with that said, they're planning to do some renovations and make it a zero efficiency home, I think 100% efficiency. In doing so, we had to review the septic system. And just on a side note, they are ready to go forward to do soil testing to upgrade their septic system. What occurred here was the septic system was built 1969, 1970. Back then, the codes were different. So the septic system capacity was built according to those codes and capacity. But with this proposal, and I sent them a letter too, just to let them know the design flow is underestimated for a 4-bedroom house. It is 244 gallons. There it is right there. Thank you, Matt. And so you will see the letter was sent out. They were very involved with it, which is good. And we talked a little bit about it before I sent this letter out so that they would be aware. I believe they're very close to setting a soil testing date. And they understand the septic system is in need to be updated if they wish to do this type of work on the house, which is I believe, first floor renovation. And unfortunately, the basement rooms were never approved at the building department level. I did a lot of research. I even checked the assessor's records, and unfortunately, they're there. And the Luskins moved in with them there, so it's nothing that they did. But there's no history on when those rooms were put in. And that's a perfect guide to bring up, Matt.
Perfect.
But
And
I want to speak the whole time. I don't know if the Luskins would want to add something.
I just want to kind of walk through this just for folks who haven't seen it, although I think it's familiar to most of us. And so, as we kind of go through the property here, we're not adding any rooms. I think it's an addition of the garage and raising of the height of the ceiling. We're not adding heat to any previously unheated space. Is the living area being increased now or cumulatively by 50% or more of the original building? I think that becomes a question from whether the finished basement was part of the original building. So I think that becomes a question mark. What we'll find is many of these have a common final pathway. So I would say, I think that's one of the questions that we can't definitively answer. We've not been able to find a determination. Mark and I spoke earlier, and my understanding is we haven't been able to find permits that said those rooms were always part of it. So it may be that those were always part of it. It may be that those were added later. I don't think we have a documentary record that establishes that definitively one way or the other. Is that right, Mark? Or does the room count for the assessor not reflect basement rooms?
That is correct. The assessors have, through the past years, indicated a 5-room, 3-bedroom house. There was 1 year that it said 6 rooms, 3 bedrooms, but all the others say 5 rooms after the fact and 3 bedrooms.
And so
which to me almost makes that first branching on this decision tree a yes, or I can't remember. Rooms have been added, even though not by them.
It's cumulatively over the life of the house. Yeah, so it may be that this is a yes. It then meets all of the setback requirements, passes Title V, and then we get down to, is there file documentation that confirms that the existing septic system design capacity matches the building requirements?
So that's a no.
That's a no, and we sort of end up here. If we follow the other one and sort of say, are renovations affecting 50% or more of the original building? I think some of that then becomes a question if you're raising the roof height, how does that play out? And then if those basement rooms were not previously reflected, again, a similar consideration. That still leads us to the same bucket of I think that a system upgrade is likely required by the flow chart, at least for my interpretation. That was a lot of me talking, so I want to pause because I want to make sure we have time for the Luskins to opine or kind of add context for us that we may not know since you guys live there. And if you can kind of keep it fairly focused, just because we've got a 7:30 appointment, so I'd love to give you guys definitive guidance before that, so you don't have to stick around for the whole show.
Great. No, I think we're fine. We understand the situation and are eager to find solutions and move forward.
Right.
Fabulous.
We understand that it was originally approved as a 4-bedroom house, but it was sold to us as 3 bedrooms on the first floor, and basically a large basement room and a small basement room. So the room count is interesting either way you look at it, but I don't know whether we fall under the heading of we have to install a leach field that will handle 4 bedrooms, even though we were anticipating 3. So that's, I guess, going to be a conversation between Board of Health and when we put in our building application.
Yeah, a 3-bedroom is up to 7 rooms, a 4 bedrooms up to 9 rooms, unless there's a possibility, if the board so wishes, to deed record some of the underground basement rooms, if they are underground, you know, cellar, small cellar windows. That would probably be brought up with the septic system design when Eric, your engineer, moves forward.
Perfect.
Good.
You also mentioned that I think I'm counting 1 less room.
I mean, what I would say is I would do the room count and do those pieces and work with your engineer to say, kind of here are the pieces, because some of it will depend on the tests, the soil testing results you get and sort of what variances may be required. And so my advice would be to kind of start with Eric to understand the scope and impact of any project changes, and to kind of go from there.
Right, and where we soil test is a little bit dependent or driving how many of our neighbors' wells we need to get surveyed and added to the plot plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I was going to say, and Eric actually drew out a septic plan. I helped him with it, and some of the wells that he showed on his soil test application were from a previous engineer named Kevin Gilson, who showed those on one of his septic plans, just so you know. So they were designed by another engineer. Where the locations were, they were provided by another engineer a few years back.
Mark, do we have any information that suggests they might need variances? Do we know that? And then
we don't. We haven't been out to the site yet, but that's a possibility too. If they're wishing to upgrade the system, they may need them, but we won't know till we get out and do the soil testing.
Okay, so I know we have an appointment soon, but when I look at the new plans on the first floor, I could almost count that first floor as just the 3 bedrooms, a living room, and an eat-in kitchen. So that's
how
I'm not seeing a separate space within the kitchen to eat in.
I agree. It's those 3 rooms in the basement that create the room count issue.
Yeah, there's not really a wall between what was described to us as the downstairs family room and the downstairs bonus room. There's not a door or a wall there. It's just the stairway.
Just one long room, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really one open space, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, with the stairs in between. Okay.
So
that's 2 rooms in the basement, and how many did we say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a 7-room house.
Yeah, that would work perfect for a 3-bedroom if that's.
Yeah, I think you're gonna squeak by.
Or a deed recording, possibly for the window. You know, it's just a window well on the music studio. But.
Yeah.
The good thing is too, it's only a half bath. It's not a full bath.
Yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it sounds like we've kind of helped define next steps. And Eric has certainly done a number of projects in town. And do we have Eric?
I don't believe he's here.
I think he's isn't he our 7th? Oh no, is that? Yeah, I think, isn't he our 7:30?
Yeah, Eric will be in the audience in a minute. I hope he shows up. I reminded him, so he may be here. Eric, are you here? but he will be here at 7:30.
I'm not seeing him at the moment.
I'll reach out to him.
He is trying to get in. We have 3 people coming in all at once, so.
Oh, okay.
He'll be on in just a moment.
Perfect. So let me pull up 15 Pleasant Street for 7:30. And for the Luskins, have we answered your questions? And I think so. I think you've disappeared. So
No, we're
No, we're here.
Oh, perfect. Are you guys, do you have the information you need in terms of I mean, you're certainly welcome to stick around, but do you have any other questions for us before we go to our 7:30?
No, we'll ask them of Mark. It was really just
right now.
which particular addresses across the street and behind and so forth we need on the plan. He'll let us know that.
Yeah, and
Eric's with us. He's trying to get in the room is what he's trying to do, just so you know. So if you wait a minute, he should be here.
I see him.
Okay. Hi, I'm here.
Perfect.
Eric, the Luskins are here and the board just reviewed the proposal and we talked about the fact you're going out with me to do soil testing.
Okay, great.
Question for Eric, or was that something?
I would say if there's questions for Eric and Mark, let's take them offline so we can get to the 7:30, but it sounds like we've sort of board piece done the direction we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Absolutely. Have a great night, guys. And Eric, I'm moderately confident I'm sharing the screen. I think I've got the 15 Pleasant Street plans up. Do you think so too?
Yes.
Oh, good. Do you want to introduce us to the topic?
Well, before he does,
do you have all the green cards?
All the green cards have been received and it is all set to go.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Alan. Eric, the floor is yours.
Okay, so this property is 15 Pleasant Street. Oh, the screen's moving around. It's a 3-bedroom single family home. It's a ranch built in 1963. It has a failed cesspool in the backyard, right in the middle, right about where the proposed septic tank is going, about 20 feet off the middle of the back. Yeah. The on-site well is in the front yard. It's about 50 feet from the house. As you can see, there's a large wetland system on the southern end of the property. And then the closest abutting well is the neighbor to the north, which is down, the other way. You can see his radius right there, right there. So given the constraints of the wetland system and the well buffers, I decided to go closer to the wetland system and protect people's wells. The soils were as expected, being that close to a wetland, very high groundwater. The redox was at 24 inches, which is pretty consistent with the elevation of the wetland system. I knew it was going to be given that elevation of redox, I knew it was going to be elevated. I decided to try to reduce the mound and prevent any more encroachment into the wetland buffer or the well buffers, eliminate any walls or tree removal. I decided to use an Elgin system. This type of system lets me go closer to groundwater while providing advanced secondary treatment. So the variances that I'm looking for today are for groundwater and to be closer than the 125 feet required to the wetland resource area.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
I was just going to say, and conservation has already reviewed this system relative to the wetlands, right?
Yes, it's been approved.
Perfect. Any other questions for the board? Again, I think this is not an uncommon circumstance in town. The sort of confluence of wells, wetlands, and other wells, sort of really drove where this can go.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. I will pull up the variance letter. And are you guys seeing that now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve a variance to section 8.01, the distance of the bottom of the SAS relative to the high groundwater?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, aye.
Pat Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Do I have a motion to a motion for a variance to section 8.02 to allow the SAS to be in an area where there's less than 5 feet of natural grade above high groundwater?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Do we have a motion for variance for section 10.2 to allow the SAS to be located 50.7 feet from a bordering vegetated wetland as opposed to the required 125 feet for the reasons described?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. And then Ellen, I see an X out for 15.405. Can you just?
I can talk to that. I can
Oh,
speak
perfect.
to that.
Fire
Yeah,
away,
so
Eric.
it's since it's the Elgins are approved by the DEP, you're not really requesting a variance. That's what Claire Golden has determined, that it's no longer considered a variance because it's been approved, but because it's been approved by the DEP for the reduction.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Eric.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion for variance to section 15.405(1)(I) to allow a reduction of the requirement of 12-inch separation between the inlet and outlet tees relative to high groundwater?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. And Mark, are the plans ready for approval?
They are ready for approval, conditional to 2 deed recordings. One for the garbage grinder, since it was not designed for this septic system. And the other one is, since they're using innovative alternative technology, they will need a deed recording for that septic system.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to approve the plan subject to those 2 deed recordings?
I'm leaving all motions
Oh
to
my
Lisa
gosh.
on her last meeting day.
So moved.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Perfect. Eric, have a good night.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Good night,
as
Eric.
well.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys. Take care.
And then Mark, I think I saw Mr. Burgess here for 60 Brush Hill Road. So why don't we go to that one next? Does that work okay for you, Mark?
That's fine.
Perfect. Mark, do you want to kind of introduce the background and then we can figure out what it's best for me to pull up?
Yeah, that's fine. So 60 Brush Hill Road was reviewed for a preliminary building application. The applicant, Carrie Rose, submitted that request to us, and I have reviewed the preliminary building application and had questions on the room count, and especially the purpose was to move the bedroom in the basement. You'll see that on the plan showing right now. It's to the left, and they want to put that on the second floor. So with that said, there was some concerns about room count. So
Mark, is it
Yep,
is it okay if I take a stab at the room count since I've got the screen
that's
up?
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
So I thought we could start on the first floor, go to the second floor, and then finish with the basement. I think looking at the 2017 minutes, I think that kitchen and living room, like this space, appear to have been counted as one space in the March 2017 review. Did I have that right, Mark?
That is correct.
And so I counted that as 1 room, 2 rooms, 3 rooms, 4 rooms on the first floor. Does that line up with how other people counted?
I counted 5 because I see seating in the kitchen, but
I see that, but I also am like, if we in 2017 said this layout was 4, it might not be what I'd call it today, but I think if different boards see the same plans twice, they should defer to the previous count even if because I sort of had the same reaction, but I'm like, we did it before, we called it 4. I think we got to call it 4 now. Does that kind of pass the collective gut check?
Yeah, I felt the same way, because I think at first pass I counted 5, and then I read the minutes. I said we called it 4, so I would agree. I also, that is assuming that the sunroom is not a room, right?
I count it as a room. So I've got one room here for the kitchen, living room. Yep. And then in the existing, so again, this isn't labeled as existing floor plan. This is the second bedroom is adding the 4th bedroom, but excluding that, then I counted 1, 2, 3 on the second floor. So I had a seven rooms above the basement. And then for me, if I count the existing basement, you know, I sort of landed at 3: fitness area, game room, and bedroom, which takes us to 10, which sort of takes us over. And so, at least for me, at the starting point, I ended up with it's tricky to switch because I sort of don't, like, it doesn't look right to me in current state to begin with. And then I asked Ellen for what the actual plans we looked at in 2017 were as it relates to the minutes of that meeting. And this is a place where Mr. Burgess will kind of briefly discuss it, but if you have additional information or if the homeowner's here, you're certainly welcome to share it, because I'm not sure that this is what we could find in our files. We didn't find something else in the building files, but I don't mean to assert that that means something else doesn't exist. So at least looking at the 2017 plans, what was described, there were 2 sets of plans in our files. They appear to be identical, or essentially identical. With one has a notation of alternate plan if BOH does not allow deed restriction, which appears to include kind of one large room in the basement, which seems like it aligns with the March 1st, 2017 minutes describing the space where a deed recording was not sought. And so for me, there's a little bit of a mismatch of, at least what I can see in our materials, looks like the last plan we saw, which was received February 28th, 2017, and discussed on March 1st, 2017, seems like it aligns with this, which doesn't seem like it aligns with the building plans as submitted. So again, I don't mean to, you know, suggest anything untoward. It's really just that, like, I have to resolve that issue before I can just say, oh, we can scoot this room over, because those plans look different, at least to me. But I'd love to kind of pause there, see if the board has any other comment, and then I see Mary Alice Henning, and I see Michael Burgess. And so maybe I'm just going to have board comment first, and then we'll go to Mary Alice, because I saw you waving your hand. And then Mr. Burgess, if you have any other comment, that's certainly welcome. So first, any comment or comment from the board?
Yeah, so when there's a letter from Dave Parrish in February 2017 that says, we recently installed a new 4-bedroom septic and submitted the final grade as built. We are proposing building a new 4-bedroom residence on the hill to the east side. The existing 4-bedroom residence will be raised. And it says, the plan submitted as part of the building application process show 3 bedrooms on the second floor, 5 rooms on the first floor, 1 bedroom in the basement with a large exercise family room partitioned with 2 half walls for aesthetics. So we understand that on occasion the board has allowed for rooms above the allowable room count, especially in basements. We could do a deed recording. We could also eliminate the half walls if that made the board more comfortable. And then a less desirable option would be to eliminate a couple walls and essentially create one large finished area with just like kind of a sort of sleeping area. So I guess.
And then if we sort of pull up, let me just pull up the minutes.
Pull up the plan that.
Well, I just want just to pull up the minutes, because I think that was the 27th. Then we have 28th. We had the plan submitted, and then on the 1st of 2017, we had the discussion. And then we've got that discussion here. The floor plan was reviewed. Mr. Orm recommended that the board consider the kitchen dining room area as 1 room. He suggested the owner relabel the basement as 1 large family room, noting that it currently shows as a family room and exercise room with 1 half wall between them. With these changes, the house can be noted as a 9-bedroom house. A 9-room house.
Right. And so that doesn't include a bedroom down there. Is the way
I mean, I think it includes a bedroom down there. I think but I think it's sort of,
that's not how I read it.
Relabel the basement as one large family room. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't. So that doesn't have a bedroom. So I think that's the key difference from what we understood in 2017 and what was presented and talked about in the board, is that there wasn't like an actual separate walled off bedroom.
And so I think at least the plans that appeared to have been reviewed, and again, you know, this was shortly before we started, it does appear to indicate that there's a bedroom there on the left in the plans that seem like they were the ones we reviewed from reading through it. And again, I think that the fact that there's a 3/4 bath that opens directly into the space would sort of, you know, align. So for me, I think they had a 4-bedroom system. They had 4 bedrooms. It seems like this plan I could see, you know, as we sort of said, we had 3 rooms upstairs, 5 rooms on the first floor, you know, 1 or 2 rooms in the basement. If you kind of broke this as to 2 distinct uses of space, we'd be at 10 rooms. If you call it, you know, 4 rooms on the first floor, then you would have been at 9 rooms. So for me, like, my takeaway is partly, you know, for the applicant, I can imagine saying, I don't see what the problem is. I'm getting rid of a bedroom and I'm adding a bedroom. That should be totally copacetic. I think resolving this discrepancy is part of our task to kind of figure out what makes sense there. And then, you know, has enough changed from the plans as existing bedroom space, at least for me personally, the removal of a closet doesn't render that not a bedroom, given how many of the other features remain. But if there's are there other comments to the board? And then I should do what I said I do.
I just wanted to have a couple clarifications. It seems like the plan that we have as alternate plan is not the plan we ultimately approved. That seems like it is the less desirable option that was discussed in that letter. Because it just doesn't fit with the room count or with anything else. And so I think I'm having trouble. I think for me, I agree with the 3 upstairs. Could you scroll to the first floor again?
Yep. Hold on, sorry, let me just. There we go. Is that up, Matt?
So it sounds like, I mean, I think what's confusing here is that this is different than the description in the minutes also, because it described counting the kitchen and dining as 1 room, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the plans, the minutes said there were 5 rooms, including 1 bedroom, but there's no bedroom here. So it just seems like this is not like what the minutes aren't really reflecting what we're seeing. And I think where I'm going with this is that I think the question in my mind is still whether game room, fitness area count as 2 rooms or 1 room, if those are really half walls.
Okay.
In between there.
Yep.
Because if that's the case, if we're counting the kitchen and dining as 1 based on our prior minutes, and then we're counting this as 1, we're at 9, right?
Yeah. So
but then they're adding 1, right?
And then they're adding 1, and then we're at 10. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. So I also think, like, is 3/4 bath, does that mean it's a shower, not a tub, but it's still basically a full bath? It's not a half bath. So I mean, I think to me, that's the other issue is, you know, when you've had a bedroom with a bathroom in the basement, and then you just say, I'm just going to take out the closet, but not really.
Although where's the door? Because does that bathroom open directly into the bedroom?
So maybe if we can just outline the clarifying questions we want to answer that sort of make it passable. So we sort of say, in the proposed state, we all agree that the second floor would contain 4 rooms, all of which are bedrooms, and that no other floor could have a bedroom because the system approved doesn't allow an increase in design flow. So we can only work with 4 bedrooms. The proposed addition creates 4 bedrooms. We've got 4 rooms on the second floor. We've got 4 rooms on the first floor based on the counting of 2017, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the only scenario that would be permitted in the basement would be either to deed record or to have 1 room. Like those are the 2 scenarios. And I think for deed recordings, you know, we certainly can provide a deed recording. I don't think we're obligated to provide a deed recording. I think it's sort of incumbent on the change in plans to say this looks materially different than a bedroom. And I think for me, that feels like one of the sticking points is like in some ways, if the game room and fitness room are, one space, cool. We still sort of feels like we have 2 rooms downstairs. So we still have a 10-room situation and would require deed recording at a minimum. And then it's a question of, is the 3/4 bath something that would be comfortable permitting or not permitting, and what set of physical features would be needed to resolve that in terms of saying that it is not a bedroom adjacent to it. Does that sound right to folks?
Yeah, agreed.
Yes. As drawn.
My problem is that I really feel like it's important to be fair and treat every single person the same across applicants. And I think it's more important that this be sort of what we today, 2023, think is appropriate. And I'm not sure that it is. I think those issues are harder to separate out for me, because I think it's a little bit harder to say that it's technically a full bath. We also have, 2 areas where we have rooms that really technically should be 2 rooms, or maybe, they really look like rooms. We have seating separately. I think it's tricky, and my instinct is that we can't be consistent with the old permit. So I
think regardless of whether we're being consistent, there's 1 extra room. This is the mistake I was making too. Like if they add another room, they're 1 above and it doesn't matter. And so the question becomes, can we deed record that thing that's turning into a bedroom into an office? In my mind, the way it's laid out on this plan with a door, the sort of hallway door, that bathroom opens directly into that bedroom/office space. And so that's a bedroom. Does that make sense?
And then I see Mary Alice on mute shaking her head. And so if you have more information, because all of us are just looking at this, is there any objection from the board to let her describe what we're missing and what we're not interpreting correctly? Potentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mary Alice, you're welcome to come off mute and inform us.
You're still on mute.
Okay. Sorry.
There we go. All right. You're unmuted.
So I'm Mimi Henning. I'm with Barrett Sotheby's, and I'm the realtor. So I've spent a ton of time in this house, and I actually did the floor plans, and I've talked to Dave Parrish. The way the house, if you go in it, which anybody's welcome to see it, it's definitely 9 rooms. You guys are completely correct. On the main floor, there are 4 rooms. It was our understanding that the kitchen and dining area, because it's open, is 1 room. Then there's the family room, the office, and the sunroom. So there were 4. And then upstairs, there's 3 bedrooms. So that's 7. And then in the basement, the family, which you're seeing as 2 separate areas, is 1 big room. She just has half of it as a gym, and the other half of it as like a family hangout. Off a hallway, at the end of a hallway, is the 4th bedroom in the basement. The bathroom is not in the bedroom.
And Mimi, can you just give me kind of a virtual tour? So we've got game room, fitness area. This is truly 1 large space.
Large space.
And can you see the screen right now? What are these portions here that I'm kind of highlighting at the top and bottom?
See, you can see how talented I am with this thing. I apologize. Hold on, let me see what I can do. I'm looking at myself.
And so it looks like it may be that there's sort of an archway between those, but I just want to make sure I'm getting the right picture in my head as we consider it, because I'm sure you've been at a bunch and we're just trying to make the picture from the drawing. And so it looks like there's sort of a separating wall. I just can't read the font because of how the scan is about, what it's trying to tell me for that space. So anything you can describe about the connection between the game room and the fitness area? You are unfortunately muted again.
You're muted.
It looks to me, Matt, like that says a 24-inch high wall.
Okay.
Like a half wall, sort of.
Perfect. All right. So it sounds like, does anybody object to counting that as one room? If it's
I don't know. I have some reservations because it's large areas and different functions, and we have a lot of rooms, like dining rooms and living rooms are often fairly open.
How big is it? I can't read those numbers.
I mean, I think regardless, it doesn't matter, because if they finish the space above the garage, we're at 10.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And frankly, I'd also want to know about when we have evaluated other properties in the past, and we've got quite a few now that have barns that have additions in them and all the rest. We don't know about all the other buildings on this property, and that may affect this as well.
So I want to I think that's a valid question, Daryl. I want to kind of work through this because I feel like this is necessary to kind of say, if we don't have a compliant floor plan, then the other stuff doesn't really matter. And so I guess, Daryl, you feel concerned with the size of the space where it looks like we're like 21 feet on this wall, 27 feet. I'm having a hard time reading that 18 feet, calling that one space. I guess for me, what I would say is like the fact that it's a half wall makes it feel different to me. Like visually they're incorporated and there's a large passageway between them. So for me, I could be convinced to call those two spaces, though again, I think we need to reconcile the fact that that is, to Rebecca, I don't agree with Rebecca's point where like, for me, I feel first and foremost, different boards have to count the same house and the same rooms the same. And so that may be a place.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
We can hear you now, Mimi.
I'm so sorry about my incompetence with the Zoom.
No
when
worries.
You go, and I can send you the floor plan. When you go down into the basement, it's open to one big space. It's just, that's all it is with a walkout. It's one big space. And that, I think my question is, if this was approved and signed off on when the construction was done, I don't understand why it's an issue now.
No.
So what I would say is, I think that was the point I was raising at the beginning, is there's no plan that looks like this that's in our file. The plan that's in our file does not have these walls. And so that's why we need to resolve it. Or if you guys say, hey, we have a different plan, here are the stamps, here's the plan. I asked Ellen to pull our file to say, what do we have in there? What did we actually approve with that permit? And that's what I highlighted earlier. So that's part of what we have to reconcile. And I don't mean to, it's not my intent to suggest, oh boy, that wasn't the plan that was approved. It's just, all I can see is something that looks different than this. And
I understand.
So that, I think that's one question. I guess the other question that would be helpful for me is just, as we have the connection that we're proposing, so not the current state, because again, for me, that's sort of less tricky, but in future state, how does the proposed, that 3/4 bath connect to the rest of the space? To me, it looks like there's a set of doors that block off the mechanical room. There's a door that blocks off the area from the bathroom to the office. Is that correct?
There's no office. That's the bedroom at the end. So the bathroom services, the gym and all that. It is not. It's in a hall.
Well, so I guess
it's a hall open to the bedroom, I think, is our question.
At the end of the hall is the bedroom.
If you go
to the left is the bathroom.
It looks like they tried to correct one of the other plans. Move to the existing plan. So is this correct here where the door, so just, can you zoom in, Matt, on the bedroom? It looks like the door in the hallway before the bathroom, as you're moving from right to left, has been crossed out and a new door has been drawn. Does this reflect the current state of affairs is the question? Where you come down the stairs and there's no door there before you get to the bathroom.
No, there's no door. It's just straight hall. You go,
and then there's a door at the end of the hall that opens into the bedroom.
That's right. That is correct. The thing is, we're looking to we understand that it has to be 9 rooms. We've been trying to find out what we have to do to decommission that room in order for potential buyers or the Roses to want to finish the room over the garage as the 4th bedroom.
So I guess one question I have for the board, and Mimi, I don't mean to say this is what they have to do. I'm spitballing here, okay?
Yeah,
for me, for me, the part that's honestly the stickiest is the 3/4 bathroom. If the game room and fitness room are one conjoined space, having that visually, physically clear and resolving the 3/4 bathroom, to me, we have, again, like, I don't love that we deed record the basement rooms. And I know that Rebecca really, really, really doesn't love it, but we do it. And I think we do it up to 2 rooms. And so if there's 2 rooms here, I think that could be, like, for me, the 3/4 bath is honestly like 80% of where I'm getting stuck. I think that if the game room and fitness room are sort of visually one giant room, there's other giant rooms that are one room. I think the part that's hard is that there's 2 patterns of use. But again, I think we could kind of think about that and talk about what that looks like. For me, I really struggle with that 3/4 bath.
Yeah, I just so I understand, because I might not understand, right? Like, I mean, someone could have chose to keep that one big room as just a rec room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She chose to put exercise equipment in half of it.
I think that's less of the issue, in all honesty.
Okay, but can you tell me, I'm missing why the 3/4 bathroom is an issue.
So for us, we have a rule that says any room that directly connects to a full bathroom is a bedroom. So it doesn't have to have a closet. If it directly connects to the bathroom, that's what our regulation says. And so
what does directly access the bedroom mean? Does that mean you're literally in the bedroom and you can go right into the bathroom?
So I think that there have been kind of slightly different ways it's been interpreted. And again, I think if you need to get a deed recording to get here, that's the part that's different than if you said, I've got a building permit, I've got this, here's the rule. Like, great, we've got rooms that are sort of connected. I think what you're asking us to do is to say, don't count these at all to the design flow. And to me, that's a different standard than if we were not deed recording any part of the space. And so for me, part of what's sticky for the bathroom, our regulation says a room that directly connects to a full bathroom, which we've treated as a 3/4 or bathroom with bathtub, is a bedroom. Dover, and I'm not referencing their regulations to say they apply here, but to illustrate the point, says that any floor that has a full bathroom on it is considered to have at least 1 bedroom upon it. That's not what our rule is. That's not what our regulation is. But for me, the question of, can I deed record away the pattern of use for this space that was built by this family, that was the architect, into perpetuity, to say, you're 100% adding another room that will definitely get used as a bedroom and definitely counts as one. Does a deed recording, from my standpoint, provide enough protection to render this non-bedroom? And what does that look like? And so for me, the closet, I struggle with a little bit to say, I have to integrate that with the bath and the bedroom is part of what I'm getting stuck on. It might be that I'm the only person who's stuck on that and others aren't. That's what's sticking
I
to me.
I think the bathroom is most problematic, because the second you have a full bath, someone could decide that they do want to use one of those as like a downstairs guest bedroom. It happens all the time. And it wouldn't be hard to do in a case like this, because you have, partitioned off rooms. So they might use it as an office for a while, as someone else might not, or the game room could also be used, even though that's not necessarily directly. So the fewer walls you have, you're inhibiting the concept of a private room that someone could use as some kind of, guest bedroom. Right. And so the walls, the presence of all of these walls dividing these spaces in conjunction with a full bath in the basement, I think is what I'm reacting to. So if there was a way to minimize the partitioning of these spaces so that it would be basically not possible to have a private guest bedroom or something like that in the future, in addition to a deed recording, I would feel much more comfortable.
So I think for me, I agree with just for a minute. I agree with the discomfort of the bath, but like the fact is our rule says bath directly connected to a bedroom, and that's not what we have here. We have a bath connected to a hallway.
That's right.
And so just let me finish. And so I appreciate the discomfort, and I also feel that discomfort, but like we have to apply our rule as it's written. And as our rule is written, like that bath doesn't connect into the bedroom. It connects into a hallway, which has 2, it looks like 6-foot cased opening into the other space. And it's sort of into an open space. And I just think in the past, we haven't said, oh, just because it's on the same floor next to a bedroom, it's a bedroom. Like we've sort of worked around this. I don't love it. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I think by the way our rules are written, that doesn't have to be a bedroom that's down there.
See, I think I land somewhere slightly different, Matt. So let's imagine there was no deed recording in question at all, right? Like, let's take that part off the table. I think I would reach the same conclusion. I think for me, it's a question of, does the deed recording provide sufficient protection? Because we're not even counting these as rooms. And so if this were a de novo building plan where we said there's no deed recording question, 100% agree, like it's got a hallway. If we want Dover's regs, you need to write Dover's regs, and that's not what we've got. And I would agree with you. For me, it's a question of, am I inclined to add space to the house enabled by deed recording while that structural feature is present, which I don't think I have an obligation to do, which is distinct from if we have a building permit. If it's consistent with our regulation, I do think we have an obligation to approve it. I think we've got some discretion with the deed recording and permitting it, although I think it's important to be broadly consistent. I was trying to remember if in my 6 years we have ever deed recorded a space that had been built as a bedroom and used as a bedroom into not a bedroom. And I couldn't remember an instance of having done it. So it makes me feel like that's really different than the sort of
it's precedent. Yeah. It would be precedent.
It's like precedent. It's also just so different than the music studio we saw on the Western Ave property earlier tonight, where you're like, you've got a window well. Like, this was a thoughtfully, consciously designed space to make that an appealing bedroom area. Am I really confident that a deed recording provides enough protection from it being used as such sometime in the next 40 years? You know, that's what's sticky for me.
So my question is two things. I think any finished basement, with walls or without walls, people could use it as a bedroom. You know, I mean, that's what people do, right? I mean, I've seen this all the time. You can take the family room and put a kid's bed down there, and they're teenagers and they live there. So my biggest concern is, what if, I know we have to stay in 9 rooms, what do we have to do to this room to decommission it in order for me to tell buyers that they can finish the one on the second floor?
So the way I would put it, and if others on the board disagree, we will let people go over the room count via deed recording in a basement space. We do not do that frequently for walkout basements. It is much more common in a finished basement that you say, we have deed recorded these, so these are not counting towards the total count for the house. And you can then say you deed recorded, like, let's imagine we had no bathroom concerns here and said there's 2 rooms. There would be a deed recording that said these don't count towards the room count. And then you can do that. I think what we have to get to is, this house really shouldn't have more flow. Like, this is not like it was an appropriate replacement system to what was functionally a reusable outhouse when the Roses replaced the cesspool and put in the Elgin. Like, those were totally the right things to do. That system is not designed to support flow that would be associated with a 5-bedroom house.
Oh,
and
right.
So,
right.
So
and we understand, we don't want to make it a 5-bedroom. I just want to be able to tell buyers who want all their kids on the second floor, this is what has been approved by the town to decommission this bedroom in the basement. If that means that they have to take down a wall, I don't know.
So maybe we can go just for a straw poll for the board. For me, what I would say is, if the game room and fitness room are truly one space, that would need to remain the case. If the bedroom then had the shelving in the closet, and the bathroom was turned from a 3/4 bath to a half bath, that's what it looks like for me to get to yes right now. Again, I could be wrong, but for others on the board, what does it take for you to get to a place where you're comfortable?
So we don't have any restriction on how large a room can be. So the game room, fitness area, I could see letting that go as 1 room. Given that when the plans were first submitted, following up on something that you said, Matt, is taking a bedroom, something designated as a bedroom, built as a bedroom. And since this went through the building inspector, there are codes for what bedrooms need to have egress through a window. So I'm assuming that that room was built to the requirements of a bedroom. And we really do restrict the deed recordings to rooms that have either those really tiny basement windows that they really should never be used as a bedroom anyway. So that doesn't meet the criteria here. So that's a tough one for me. And I would agree that changing that bathroom to a half bath would help a great deal if a deed recording is to be considered.
What if we change the egress to a not an egress, so it can't be the legal bedroom? I hate to take a full bathroom out of a basement. You know,
Mimi,
you got kids coming.
Mimi, I just want to hold off. I just want to straw poll the board just because you asked us, what does it take to get to yes?
My apologies.
No worries. I'm a big interrupter. I can't blame you for it. It's a pot in the kettle over here. So we heard Daryl. Lisa, what's your take?
I mean, to me, I think going to a half bath also would be really alleviate like any hesitation I would have, because it's not what you're planning to do right now or what even you're pitching it as to prospective buyers. It's what are the things that can easily conceptually happen. And like you said, Matt, I don't know of any circumstance where we've actually had a bedroom in the basement and then change it to try and say, okay, we're going to deed record it away so that we can put a bedroom on the second floor. Like I also can't recollect in 6 years that we've ever had this circumstance. So I too think I agree with Daryl and you that, you know, I think going to a half bath down there would make it just almost a no-brainer, that it would be okay to deed record it, and we could have confidence that a deed recording, you know, would be a useful tool, that it could work to keep it at 9.
So I agree with that. I think a half bath makes it easy. Not to belabor things, but to, you know, throw it out to the board is, what if it goes all the way back to that alternate plan? What if the sort of wall between the game, what's labeled as game room and bedroom, is gone and it's just one big open space? Maybe that's another alternative, perhaps.
You mean get rid of basically the whole wall over there, the L shape between bedroom 4 and the game room? Just get rid of that whole wall over there.
Or you know, at least that corner, you know, you could have, I mean, I don't know structurally what's doable, right?
Yeah,
not an engineer.
You would have to open the wall where it's unfinished, not into the game room. It would have to be take down the wall that, because there's the bedroom wall, one of the bedroom walls is the same wall as unfinished bedroom. You'd have to take that wall out. That would be the easiest thing.
The wall that Matt is marking right now between the bedroom and the game room. So if that comes out and there's sort of that, what a new door comes out, then that would also work for me. And then I think having a 3/4 bath down there, but without sort of one private room anywhere in the space, might be another way to achieve it. I don't know how others feel though.
And so for Matt, for that scenario, as we sort of try to answer the question for Mimi, for you, if you say this is one giant space, but without a semblance of privacy on the floor, then the presence of a 3/4 bath you would be comfortable with. I think what I'm hearing from Daryl is half bath plus get rid of egress. What I'm hearing from Lisa is half bath. And then let me just get Dr. Honeywell, and then Mimi will circle back to you, okay?
Let me clarify. Thanks. I don't want to see the egress changed because that's a safety issue. I'd much rather have egress for people underground. So, and I just want to mention what Matt Beavers just was talking about starts to make it look like a big bedroom suite. So I'm not sure.
That sounds like where Matt landed is not
maybe.
I wish you guys could see the basement in person and realize that that's definitely not the case if you're in it. You know what I mean? It's hard when, I mean, you could look at the photos online of the, I can send them. It's just not like that. It's an enormous basement. It will never be, you know, I mean, if somebody threw a bed down there, that's one thing you would never know, but you can't take that bedroom that's there now and open it up to the family room. And I say family room, playroom. You can't do it. You got to open it up to the unfinished space.
That ship has sailed because that was a plan that wasn't built in the house.
Okay, well then, so then it doesn't matter. So then what it comes down to is I think we're all sort of on this needs to be a half bath, not a 3/4 bath.
And then let me just go to Dr. Honeywell. Rebecca, fire away. And then.
Yeah, so I'm, going to be the wrench in the works. The problem is it's design flow. And and we have this need to be consistent. And once it's a bedroom, I think it's really hard to unmake it a potential bedroom. It could be 15 years from now, another family comes along and they're thrilled to put their nanny down there. And now we're talking about design flow and potentially contaminating their own drinking water. So, you know, that's the issue. Because that's what we're talking about when we talk about design flow. If you have your own septic system and your own well, and you have a septic system that isn't designed for the amount of flow, you're talking about overflow, which will contaminate your drinking water. So it's
so
really,
Rebecca, it sounds like you're it sounds like you're sort of a no in the sort of deed recording, no matter what. So it sounds like we've got 4 folks who say if the 3/4 bath is a half bath, then we'd be comfortable approving it, to sort of answer your question, Mimi. I haven't heard anybody say, I think Matt, you said the 3/4 bath doesn't meet the required, if this were an undeed recorded scenario, then this would not automatically turn something into a bedroom. But it's really the question of, do we want to grant a deed recording? And so I feel like my takeaway from this is, for your question, Mimi, if they turn it to a half bath, then I think it's a deed recording. I think it then becomes a question of, is this the total design flow that goes into the system? I haven't seen anything that suggests there's any other design flow that goes into the septic system, but just want to explicitly confirm that's correct. Everything is coming from the main house.
The only, if I'm understanding you. Oh, you talking?
Yeah. So I think there've been questions about accessory. Oh, go ahead.
That's a whole nother issue. I think what I'm having a hard time, and I know we have to move on from this, is I don't, the bathroom was always there. I don't understand why taking out the amount of construction that has to be done in order.
So you're asking, I hear that. I think the reason is because you're asking to add a room to a house that already had the rooms. So we have to give you a deed recording for you to be able to do what you're doing.
I understand that.
You don't have,
okay.
You don't
I just
just
don't
have a bedroom.
Understand the bathroom thing.
No. I think what we're saying is there's a little bit where there's some back and forth where we're trying to do our due diligence to say, how do we make sure that some future homeowner doesn't convert that space? I think what you're hearing us say is, you're adding a room to a 9-room house that's been called the 9-room house and has a 4-bedroom system and is only entitled to 9. What does it take for us to get to yes? Because you're actually adding space to the house that was there. And so we have to be able to say, how are we taking out room count? It's not just the bedroom, it's your room count. And we can do that with the deed recording. So then it's a question for us of what makes us comfortable to deed record. And I think what you're hearing from all of us is we're not comfortable deed recording that space with a 3/4 bath, because we also do not, none of us can remember a scenario where we've deed recorded away a bedroom. And so we're trying to say, to get to yes, this is what it looks like for us. It may or may not be what you want to do, but I think, that's sort of what, go ahead.
I just want to ask one more question. I mean, I've heard you say that we've never decommissioned a bedroom before, but is it not legal to decommission a bedroom and have the right to move a bedroom to a different location in your room, in your house?
Well, so again, it's not the bedroom.
You're adding a room.
But if we decommission that room and take down walls,
what we're telling you is what it would take for that bedroom to be considered decommissioned for our
and just to be clear, it's not that it's not a bedroom, it's that it's a room that's taking you to 10. Because if you said, we're going to fill that room with cement and we're going to make a room above the garage, wouldn't take anything from us at all. Totally fine. If you say, we are going to unfinish that room, totally fine. You now have taken a finished space and turned it to an unfinished space. You've turned a different unfinished space to a finished space. What you're saying is, I would like to add finished space and add a room. That's the part. It's not just taking out.
We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. I'm sorry if there's confusion. I want to know what I have to do to that room to make it a non-room, so I can have
a non-room. Then it needs
I'm trying to trying to make it a non-room. What would be considered a non-room?
If it were unfinished space.
Yes.
Unfinished space.
Yeah.
So literally, you'd have to take out the drywall, the heat. All that.
But I would say so from my standpoint, if drywall and flooring are out and that's unfinished space of a similar type and character as a mechanical room, from my standpoint, donezo.
Yeah.
Does that line up for other people?
Oh yeah, like if there's no heat,
Sure.
there's no finished ceiling, there's no finished walls. It's not a room.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's I think there's heat in the whole basement, even the unfinished part.
No, but I would say
you asked us a question, so we're giving you the
if
answer.
we had to take down a wall.
Mm.
Well, so
see, this is what I'm trying. I understand. So we've been talking about two different things. If I can tell like a potential buyer, listen, these walls have to come down, and this just has to be unfinished space if you want to finish the bedroom on the second floor.
Yeah. Yes.
Correct. That's what we're talking about. It has to touch the bathrooms or
right.
anything
It has
like
to
that.
be it has to be converted.
Oh, trust me, I would get it exactly how you guys want it. Okay. The other option is if we are talking, and if I'm understanding, so bear with me. If someone turned that bathroom into just a powder room, we could potentially keep that space. Is that what you're saying? And still finish
deed recording and make, and not.
And the game room and fitness area would need to be equally
open.
separated or conjoined as they are now. Right. So it sounds like we've got, I just want to think through that scenario. So if they totally unfinished bedroom 4, so it's not office, it's mechanical room part 2, unfinished, whatever one calls it, but it sort of structurally looks like unfinished space. We're saying this would be treated as one space and would need to stay open, half wall, open space there. And then we have 4 rooms on the first floor, 4 rooms on the second floor. So we're 9 rooms. Alternatively, if we said, boy, that makes us, to Daryl's earlier point, we're like, meh about that. Then you could say game room and fitness area, we count as 2 rooms. We deed recorded one of them and said, again, that's consistent with what we've done, recognizing Dr. Honeywell is not enthusiastic about it. Or if we take out the shower setup in the bathroom, then we have 2 rooms here and we would still need a deed recording. So if we powder room the bathroom, that also requires a deed recording in the downstairs space to not trigger the room count to 10 rooms.
Right.
Right. Does that make sense? So those are your 2 options. Basically, it's get rid of the shower and do a deed recording, or completely unfinished bedroom 4. Either of those, I think, could get us to the room count.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I needed to know. So now I know what to tell potential buyers in the event that they want to buy the house. And I can get that in writing, and we'll have it in writing, and I can.
This will be in our minutes. This will all be in our minutes in terms of these are the 2 things that we talked about. These are the scenarios. As is always the case, we'd want to kind of see the plans. I think the other thing I just want to be clear about is I'd asked earlier, all of this is predicated on all of the design flow into the system is coming from the house and the floor plans we're seeing. And for the record, I just want to confirm that's correct, that there's no other design flow entering the septic system from any other space other than what we've seen and considered tonight.
No, it's just the main house.
Perfect.
That's correct. It's the main house, and the main house only is that it has its own septic for the 4 bedrooms.
Perfect. And then
I have a question for Mark or anyone else who remembers.
Go ahead, Daryl.
So we've looked at lots of different properties that have outbuildings, and we had a period there where we were seeing artists' workshops going in to those buildings. And we considered the room counts, including those rooms. Was that only because they were connected to the septic system, or was that just because it was all rooms on the same property?
Well, we have looked at one on Maple Street that they did connect to the septic system. That was an artist's room. We've looked at a campus on the other side of town near Millis and had pretty much these same discussions. So it really would be beneficial to know if there's any other finished rooms on the property. We understand the cottage has a cesspool, and they're working on that right now to replace that. But I think what would be helpful is if we could get pictures as well of any finished rooms within the house, as well as on any other parts of the pictures really help out to get through all this.
So I just, Mark, can I ask one corollary question? And then I just want to be clear, because I think for Mimi's question of what does it take to get to yes for here? I think we've answered those. There's a separate question, which is, if there's something the board doesn't know about now, would that still be true? Well, possibly not. So if we sort of say, what's the maximum due diligence that could be done by a prospective buyer, we'd certainly say, if the board doesn't know about all the other parts of the property and that hasn't been submitted, you know, again, if we're doing a room count, we'd say we want all the rooms in the property, which is what we've said for other properties, as Daryl described. And then, Mark, how did we do it for for Skip's place on Coolidge for the yarn shop? My recollection is that that was plumbed but not septic, and that it counted for the room count. Am I remembering that right?
I believe so, and I would have to look at the minutes, but I believe so. That's why they modified the house, or we reviewed the house to make sure it could accommodate the yarn room.
And so I think that, to Mimi, to answer your previous question, if the question of a buyer is, you know, sort of, if I do this, will I be approved? You're like, yes, as long as we know about everything else. Right now, I don't know that I know about everything else on the property. So that's one of the areas of uncertainty. I think that I don't intend to imply that it's not compliant, but just to say I can't agree to the stuff I haven't seen.
No, I understand. It's okay. with further review. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Okay. And so we're sort of right now for this saying this is approvable is sort of based on the floor plan we see here, the data, the room count. Right. Does that address that question, Daryl?
Yes.
Okay.
And it puts the ball in their court, really, to know that.
And then any other questions to the board? And then I also wanted to make sure that if Mr. Burgess had any questions, he was able to ask that as well.
I just had one quick question, and I don't mean to open up another can of worms. Could they move the shower?
I think for me, I would be deeply, at least for me, like the shower being there makes it way more complicated. And
no, but I mean, if the current design of the rooms, they're using it as a fitness area. So to me, I didn't really look at it bedroom and then bathroom, you know, bathroom next to a room is a bedroom. I looked at it as fitness area, take a quick shower. If they separated the shower and put it, because if you look at the design of the house, the kitchen's right above it. So the piping's there. They could probably put the shower in a different place. So they have the toilet and the sink in one area and a shower completely different.
I mean, that seems excessive, and I would not be an advocate for that, because the point is to just minimize it, and it's not, that's even more work than just taking the shower out of there. So if
but I would
the problem is at this level of a house in a finished basement, there's usually a full bath.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing. I really cannot give up for them taking out a full 3/4 bath.
And that's I think that's fine. But yeah, we just can't increase the room number. Like that's just sort of.
And so I think so Mimi, we'll sort of leave it to you. I think, Michael, for your question, I think we sort of saw even in this scenario that we sort of had 4 board members who said, yeah, I can get there, and 1 board member who was like, I can't get there with what you're talking about. And so I think for me, like a shower down there makes it hard for me to get there. And so that's kind of where I land. And I totally get that it's like, I'm like 51-49 on this one. I'm like, okay, that gets me to 51, yeah, I think it passes. If we start finagling with that, it sort of turns me the other way. And so I in that scenario, I would then recommend decommissioning bedroom 4 in terms of rendering that unfinished space. I don't think we have to do anything. Again, I would say treat it the way the mechanical room's treated. I think that a future board would treat those as common spaces where it's like, this is unconditioned storage, and that's similar to how we've handled some outbuildings on other campus properties.
I'd like to mention, I guess there's one other option that you could relay to possible future owners, and that is expansion of the septic system. So it's a relatively new system. I don't know if they had variances.
No, I think that property had to be brutal because they had 27 acres and they put in an Elgin 4-bedroom. So I can't imagine that they can add to it, or they wouldn't have done it that way when they were doing it all.
That's correct. It's an Elgin and it cannot be added on to.
No.
Right. Okay. The question was now with that, when they bought the home, the former blacksmith building, when they bought it, had it's like a little guest house. And apparently it's my understanding the former building inspector put in the bathroom in the sink in that little cottage. It's on a leaching field, right, Mark?
No, that's incorrect. You might be correct about what happened with the.
Not a leaching field,
it's a cesspool. A cesspool that does need to be. Yeah, and it's been defined as a cesspool. So I spoke to
right, and so
it has to be replaced in 1 year.
So we're trying to. We've had them come out and test the soil. It is my understanding that it passed the state regulations, but it did not pass Sherborn's.
We won't know that till the septic system is submitted to us by the engineer.
But it's certainly possible that you found that, because if it had passed, nobody would have put in the Elgin. They would have, like, you wouldn't have put in a 4-bedroom system if you had lots of passing soils that would have passed Sherborn.
Wait, are we talking about the cesspool for the cottage now, or are we talking about the existing? Like,
well, I would just say, like, I would also just say we're an hour into this topic and we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. So I think we've answered the question for this piece of it. For other scenarios, I would say, based on the circumstances of this build that was recently built, I can't imagine there's an easy, totally met Sherborn regs, now we can add new design flow to it, or we wouldn't have observed what we observed. Mimi, I think we've given you the guidance to kind of be able to communicate to buyers what it might look like. If there are other questions, feel free to reach out to Mark. Our minutes are pretty comprehensive, but I would also encourage you to take a look at those when they're sort of published. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out as well. We should be approving them at the next meeting as sort of the final form, just to make sure it looks right to you.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, have a good night.
You too.
With that, do we want to kind of pivot over to some of the regulatory pieces under the chair's business? Does that sound okay to folks?
Yep.
So maybe we can start with number 3 for the status of legislative action regarding virtual and in-person meetings. I don't know who knows what the status of that is. Is that Ellen?
I thought Ellen mentioned something last time.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, what I have heard, and I think Jeff Waldron mentioned it at the last meeting, that the Senate and the House passed it, and it's waiting for the governor's signature that it would be extended for 2 years until March 31st, 2025. But I have not yet heard that the governor has signed it.
Right, and Michael and I were chatting about this because he said he's been tracking it as well. And it's frustrating that they're waiting to the last second to tell us. They know we all have to be planning meetings and making arrangements if we need to go to hybrid and all the rest. So it's a shame. Jeff, have you heard a final word yet?
No, same thing, but I think we're treating it as if it's a done deal. You know, like I said, it's still waiting for the governor's signature, and Petrini's been emailing me with every step along the way, so I should hear from him when the governor signs it. But I'm treating it as if it's virtual. We're having I guess it's not virtual. Yeah, we're having a virtual select board meeting tomorrow night. No, we're having a public hearing. I think April 6th, we're having a virtual select board meeting. So, I mean, I'm not worried about it, given that both, you know, the House and the state Senate have approved it. But if you, I'll let Ellen know if I hear anything from Chris Petrini.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jeff and Ellen. And then maybe we'll continue in reverse order. Review of Advisory Committee Fiscal Year 24 budget hearing. Daryl, do you want to discuss that, or would you like me to?
You can go ahead. I've spent a lot of time on that, so you could probably be shorter than my lengthy description.
So we joined the advisory. I think there was much thoughtful discussion. A variety of opinions were held, and ultimately we landed on, yep, should go from 35 to 40. And then I think there are ongoing conversations about the specifics of the job role, as it both relates to the feedback from the HR consultant, as well as exempt or non-exempt status, which will be adjudicated and sort of worked through with the town administrator and HR and all the rest of it. But for the scope of the advisory, the 35 to 40 was voted on affirmatively by both advisory and the select board, if I recall correctly. Hearing no further discussion, do we want to, Ellen, do you want to just kind of briefly walk us through the review of town council comments on the proposed regulation changes? I think they're pretty mild.
She made only one change to the. Do you have that document? It's.
I didn't see it in.
Oh, did I not add it? Oh.
I didn't see it in the Google Docs. It doesn't mean it's not there, because my car keys are always where they are and I never see them either. So.
I thought I had added it, but it was just changing to a change to Regulation 2 water supply, section 1.0 permits, the last sentence where you had added no building permit shall be issued for the construction of a building which would necessitate the use of water therein unless a suitable supply of water is available from a well located on the property where the building is to be constructed. And then, or you had originally had, or connection to a semi-public or public water supply. She changed it to, or a connection to a semi-public or public water supply is available. So she added 3 words.
Sounds lovely.
And then the only other,
I think you'd had one grammatical change that you changed. I'm trying to remember what it was, Ellen, that you'd suggested that we endorsed.
I'm trying to get to it. It was in water supply. Let's see, it's towards the end. Can't find it, but it was where you had, here it is. In 17.3G, which is the laboratory tests for a water supply, the long discussion at the last meeting where it was if any concentrations and any is being removed of volatile organic compounds or PFAS, and it originally said is detected. And after a long conversation, you settled on is confirmed above levels present in subsection D.
Right, to permit for 2 samples.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think rather than confirmed, reported might be a better word, because it's the levels are reported to us from the lab. They're not confirmed.
Right. I think he was trying to get at if you had something like maybe just very slightly over and you took a subsequent sample and it wasn't confirmed.
Oh yeah, but so yeah, and that's still fine. It would still work if it said reported.
Because you could wait to report it till after the second sample.
We keep those second and third samples. They're all part of the record. So, I mean, confirmed, just, I can foresee problems with people saying, well, who's confirming this?
Yeah.
There's no question about
could you use the word found on?
No, because found is still detected. And so that could still be just the first one. So if you have the opportunity to take 2 samples before it's reported, then I think that works, Ellen. I just don't want someone saying like, oh, your first hit was, 0.2 over the detection limit. So even though your second sample was, half the standard, you're still considered an exceedance. So that's a situation we want to avoid. So if reported would allow you to just consider, you know, the second.
Because they come to us the lab reports say report date. So we just look at it's a reported result.
Yeah, I don't think that's what we were trying to get at with that word, because basically even in like for public water supplies, if you're, you know, barely above in your first sample, you get an opportunity to either confirm or not. So the lab report is just going to say what the detection limit is and what the result is. So as long as there's the opportunity, like I said, for people to take a second sample and take both results into account in determining if they have an exceedance issue or not. That's what we want to protect.
We usually allow, and a letter. What we do is we'll give the applicant we'll provide a letter to the applicant saying that if they wish to prove the first results were erroneous or introduced, they can do 2 consecutive tests to prove that. So that's already been allowed through the years with the Board of Health.
Is that what our regulations articulate, though?
I couldn't find it in. Is it in the regulations? Because we've been doing it for years, but
it's just been process. Yeah.
Right. So as long as there's that opportunity, then we can say, you know, reported or identified. That's fine. As long as it's very clear that you can, you know, counter an initial slight exceedance with a second result that, you know, you can
need two subsequent.
2 consecutive.
But I think fundamentally, like Lisa's point is, we want to make sure that we are not, by changing the regulation, removing flexibility that we think people appropriately have. And so if we feel like that's reflected and reported, cool. I think Lisa's emphasizing the point of, I really want to make sure that we're not just saying, oh, it was reported, I got a report, it's reported, it's done now.
Right.
Do we need to, how do we capture the fact that there may be 2 bites at the apple? You got your first, and then you need 2 negative, and then you're square. And does reported cover that? Do I have that right, Lisa?
Yeah, and maybe if we say reported as per, and then cite the portion of the regulations that says you can, you know, negate an initial result with 2 consecutive, you know, results below the standard. I like it, maybe citing that so there's clarity, like, oh, you know, it's not necessarily 1 and you're done and that's the end of the story, that you have that opportunity. So
I agree. I think when I was looking at the regulations just about a few weeks ago, I said, we never put that in the regulations. We've been using it for years.
Yeah, it is not in there, but we've done it.
Okay, so if it's not in there, then I would say
keep confirmed. Then keep confirmed.
I would favor keeping confirmed and making sure that, because I don't think that we have to identify every step of our process in the regulations. I think that, or what if you say, if any concentration of volatile organic compounds or PFAS is confirmed upon, or confirmed upon
identified
repeat
is the same as detected. Yeah.
Confirmed upon repeat testing above levels presented.
Yeah, I mean, like, if that's the piece that we were trying to get at with that word, because confirmed means that it's not just 1 and done.
If is confirmed upon repeat testing if necessary.
Yeah, something like that, or as necessary.
Does that sound like only one?
Well, what I would say though, if people had 1 test and they didn't retest, they would need a deed recording. If they, right, like we wouldn't say like, oh, you didn't do repeat testing, so you've got like PFAS all over the place, but you just did 1 test, so I didn't repeat it, so I don't have to deed record it. Like, I think it's really, I mean, my 2 cents is, I think we can say either confirmed or reported, as long as we capture the process that we let people do this twice.
Well, it would have to be 2 negatives after.
2 negatives,
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or
or Ellen's suggestion is is.
So if you said if any concentration of volatile organic compounds or PFAS is reported at levels presented in subsection D, retesting may be, I mean, do we just add a whole nother sentence that says you may retest with 2 negative non-detects, you're good. If, confirmed on repeat testing, or if repeat testing is not sought, a document shall be attached to the deed and recorded in the South Middlesex Registry of Deeds.
I have a concern that, the best way would be to codify our procedure of two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm surprised that I'm hearing now, like, because I'd always understood what you said, Mark, that there was that ability to do that. So I thought, oh, easy, we could just cite it. But now I'm hearing that that's not really articulated.
Yeah, no, but we've been told by town council that having a well-established procedure is acceptable and it's good and it's strong. Would be a little stronger to have it in the regulation, but it's there. And I'm wondering if by calling out those two constituents,
it's not two constituents
for confirmation implies that you can't confirm any other results either.
Yeah, that's my concern, is that really
but it's different, Daryl, because this says if any concentration is detected above the level, like, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the question is, if nitrogen is detected high, we make them retest, right? Like,
yeah,
like we don't want to limit this just to PFAS.
What's at the beginning?
It happens all the time with bacteria.
Yeah, go to the beginning then of this part of the regs. Can we go to the beginning?
Can you see them? Where do you want me to go to?
Yeah. So I just want to say, water does not, so it says water does like
Lisa, you have to be perfect. This is your last bite at the apple.
This is a lot of pressure. Maybe either an A or C that we add a sentence that's saying, an initial analysis may be confirmed or negated by 2 subsequent analysis.
Like consecutive compliant tests or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So an initial non-compliant result may be, not dismissed. Is negated too weird a word?
What can you say? Maybe replaced. Maybe you're replaced by 2 compliant results.
Superseded.
Yeah, superseded.
I like superseded.
Yeah, how about that? An initial non-compliant result may be superseded by 2 consecutive compliant results and analyses or something like that.
Perfectly said.
Would you say subsequent?
Well, I think that's.
Well, it would have to be subsequent. Otherwise, you're just making terrible choices. If you're like, I can tell that.
But just.
No, but I get what you're saying. Like, so it feels like the sentence should go in part A.
Yeah.
Sort of after the first sentence, before water does not meet the accepted standards. So you have to conduct this. And then say a non-compliant test may be superseded by 2 subsequent and consecutive compliant tests.
Okay, I like it.
Wait, where do you want me to?
Yeah, at the end, right there, after well.
All right, Mac. My apologies, sir. Can you repeat that?
But just a second. So an initially non-compliant test may be superseded.
I would call it analysis.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or an initial non-compliant result. It's not
fine. Non-compliant result.
Yeah.
May be superseded by 2 subsequent and consecutive.
Yeah. Compliant results.
Yep.
And that way it's clear it applies to any of the analyses we're talking about.
Yeah.
Ellen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's good.
I like it.
Yeah. Can we go back to what should we go back to down here? We can go back to confirm now.
Yeah.
I say stick with confirm because we've clarified what that means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now
Sound good?
I'll amend the final document to another final. That's okay. But those are the only changes.
Perfect.
So this document, it will be posted on the website, and it will be a handout, you know, for people who want it in, you know, a hard copy that'll be available in Town Hall and in the Board of Health office.
So is this a segue to timing on public comment?
Yeah. So Ellen or Daryl, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going on vacation as of tomorrow.
Are you flying?
Yes.
See, it's perfect. You'll have all that time in the air. It'll be great.
I was wondering what that question was about.
You're a nightmare, Matt. You're just a nightmare.
You need to resolve the exempt, non-exempt issue before that.
Yeah. So Ellen's going on a well-deserved. So see, now Ellen's even checking off boxes on the agenda. So administrator's vacation, Miss Hartnett, fire away.
Oh, my vacation. So I'm on a plane at 5:30 tomorrow morning. So
well, we better wrap this thing up by 9.
That's what I'm hoping. And I will be back in the office on April 11th. We fly back April 10th. I'm back in the office on April 11th, and then I have from 1 to 4 that afternoon. I'm doing a CPR training with the fire department. So I'm really
April 12th.
Yeah, April 12th. I'll be doing the minutes of this meeting probably.
So would you need
that? We don't have any meeting in April now.
Right. So
we're down to just a couple of weeks, and there's a holiday.
So
it has to be I have to take this document, cut it down tremendously to like one line for each proposed change. It has to be posted in the paper twice with the first, let me get my cheat sheet here so I get it right. The first publication has to be at least 2 weeks prior to the hearing. And then a second posting can be closer. So depending on which newspaper, it can go into either Hometown Weekly, which is, that's cheaper than Metro West Daily News. But Metro West Daily News will probably, depending on what date you choose for the hearing, and I have to prepare another document, which won't happen until mid-April. So then that document has to be sent to the newspaper before their deadline, publication deadline, and then published twice in 2 consecutive weeks. So I'm thinking probably by late April, I can get it into the newspaper for the beginning of May. And then maybe maybe the second meeting in May or the first meeting in June, which we could get it done by.
In either of those cases, we'll be bridging to the next board, which based on the timing of well-deserved vacation seems inevitable, particularly given the volume of change that we're doing.
Right.
So I think it becomes a question of, for the 3 who are continuing, are you all available for May 2nd, the second May meeting or the first June meeting?
Yes.
It could be May 17th or June 7th.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
At this time, I am.
Okay. So then I will defer to you people.
Right, as long as we're missing.
To be safe. Oh, sorry.
It would have been easier for, for the current board members, but.
Well, we didn't get to vote on Ellen's vacation. It was just an informational.
I feel terrible.
No.
It's well-deserved time away. I mean, I think that at this point, it has been, carefully vetted and reviewed. I guess.
Yeah.
I would say I'm certainly, while I won't be on the board, I'm happy to attend whichever meeting it is, for the public discussion portion. Although again, I don't think any of this will be hugely controversial. Hopefully.
And Ellen, weren't you mentioning you thought maybe we should just have a separate meeting, but maybe that's too much for.
Yeah, you could, because of the number of changes. I don't know how much business, variance hearings will have at that point. There's none yet, but they will start coming in. So
can we continue a public hearing to the next meeting if we want to break it up?
Yes, you have before.
Okay.
Yeah. When is the election? I should know
May
this.
9th. May 9th.
And so, Ellen, I think what I'm hearing from you is there's no realistic scenario where we could get the timelines with the time required with a special meeting before May 9th. Am I?
Yeah, no.
Okay. So then we just have to
say probably waiting till the 7th for the first one.
Yeah.
Just
I would appreciate
just
that.
for the people coming on.
I think that makes sense.
I think that makes the most sense too. I agree.
And
All
so
right.
for posting it and getting it ready for the newspaper, would you start the hearing, do other business, say between 7 and 8, and start the public hearing at 8 o'clock and do that for the rest of the meeting?
Yes.
I think so.
And then if it turns out that we have a lot of things rolling in, we might have to limit our discussion. Yeah.
And then assuming virtual meetings continue, it'll be Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I hope so.
So I would need a link for that.
Yep.
So I can post that too.
Okay.
Ellen, thanks for all your hard work on this. This has been a heavy lift.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes.
I think it's a lot of changes, and I think, again, I wish we could have gotten it closed out before some of us transitioned off, but I'm really glad we did this work because I think this was important work, and we gave it the time and consideration I think it needed.
Yeah.
Agree.
So I think the public hearing count we talked about. So I think our last thing is May 3rd agenda items.
And right now I don't have anything.
That's perfect. So maybe, Ellen, if we could
I think we need to have a party. I don't know how we do that virtually.
I promised Dr. Beavers that there was a Board of Health gavel, which he remained skeptical about.
Yeah, I don't think it's real.
And it's in the desk drawer in the second floor meeting room.
It's very legitimate. There's also placards.
As real as the library.
No, that
awkward time.
Sorry, I'm just commenting on things I haven't seen since moving to town.
The new library is lovely. So maybe for May 3rd, maybe we could just get an update, Ellen, to confirm we're on track for June 7th, and we won't have any regulatory changes to talk about because I'll be in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Go ahead.
I have a question. I'm just curious. Maybe you can tell me offline whether the questions that I'd submitted to you ever went further than your desk.
Yep. They went to town council. We discussed them at the meeting last week.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
2 weeks ago. Yep. No worries. So they did, and I think are incorporated in the version of the regulations that we have.
Okay, because my specific question had to do with the threshold for the ledge disruption. Was there a discussion I can try to get?
There was. It was actually in the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay, I'll get that. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, with that, now being 9 o'clock, to have a motion to adjourn and to again thank Ms. Kemp for her 6 years of service.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
So moved.
So moved.
Huzzah.
Yeah. All right, I'll
Thanks,
second.
everyone.
Perfect. All right. And by roll call vote.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye. Have a great night, guys.
Night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Bye, guys.